So recently, George Janko had the Christian Avengers on his YouTube channel discussing various different topics. And there's currently a bit of a fuss going on about him apparently calling the Eucharist dirt. Now, I never saw the whole podcast, but I was made aware of it through Ruslan's channel, where he was defending George and saying he wasn't saying the Eucharist was dirt. But I want you guys to skip ahead a bit in the actual original video. I'll give you the timestamp, and you'll see this clip, which I'm about to show you. He very clearly is calling the Eucharist dirt, very plainly. Ruslan did not include this clip from what I can recall, because I watched the clip earlier. I don't recall him using this on his defense. I would really like to know why he didn't use it, considering it's the clip in question. But maybe he went back to search for it and he didn't want to watch the whole thing all over again, and then he came across this. I don't know. But George Janko does call the Eucharist dirt. So here's the clip.
I don't believe that the molecules have changed to where the bread literally becomes flesh. I don't believe that, but I believe the real presence is there.
So they believe that it is actually his body.
I think it's called transubstantiation.
Yes. To me, it's like, isn't that blasphemy? Isn't that like idolatry at a whole different level when you're worshiping something? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Again, I'm just learning. And I'm going to clarify this because I don't want people to get upset with me or get angry with me. If I'm wrong, instead of getting angry with me, pray for me. Because if I'm wrong, I would love to learn and then come back. I would sit on this podcast and be like, guys, I was an idiot. I was super wrong. This is the reason why. But I need somebody to come with biblical terms and show me in the gospel, because as of right now, we're just taking dirt and worshiping it as if it's our presence of God. And I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head that, like, if the piece of bread falls to the ground, legitimately hell breaks loose in that church and they bow and pick it up with their mouth and they treat it like it is actually my God that's in that bread. I can't get behind that. Now, if any man has a scripture and says, no, this is exactly why, I will bow my head and I will bite my tongue. I'm never trying to go against God.
It's not blasphemy. It is literally the only view that existed for the first 1,500 years. And even the earliest reformers believed in the real presence in the Eucharist. Your own reformers, Martin Luther, John Calvin, they believed that Christ was really present in the Eucharist. It was Zwingli that this whole memorial idea came into the picture, where it's just a symbol. This was not something that the heroes of the Reformation even believed in. They believed in a real presence. The physical appearance and the chemical composition are unchanged. If you test it, it's still going to be a piece of bread or wine. Unless it's a Eucharistic miracle, in which case we have had cases of, I think it's AB negative or AB positive, AB blood, either way, pretty consistently in the Eucharistic miracles. So in those cases, we are shown, and we are not supposed to eat a Eucharistic miracle. That is a big no-no. But it still appears as bread and wine. It tastes like bread and wine to make it something that you would want to take, because nobody wants to eat and drink actual flesh and blood. And that would be cannibalism, and that would be wrong. That would be destruction and death. And yeah, Christ is the living bread that came down from heaven, he said. So while the molecules don't change, the substance has. And it does literally become the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ.
We're not bowing to the inanimate object. We're kissing it the way if you had your kids in your wallet, you pick out a picture, you kiss your kids.
I don't look at things that are dirt and put it to the holiness of God.
Okay, so pause it. I do not look at things that are dirt and put it to the holiness of God.
Talking about icons.
sounds like he's talking about icons.
Pretty clear.
Not communion.
Yeah.
I don't think he's saying communion is dirt. That's the accusation that was hurled against him in this chat.
Yeah.
That's the accusation that some people are saying. I'm seeing it. And so what do we talk? We're talking about icons. We're not talking about communion here. He's saying dirt in the everything comes back to dirt and matter, right? These things are dirt and matter.
Physical things.
Physical things. I don't look at physical things and look at them as God.
I understand where Ruslan is coming from when it comes to believing that George is just trying to say that everything that's matter comes from dirt. But if Christ were here in front of you, he was a man. He still is a man, you know. Would he look at Christ and say, I'm worshiping dirt because I'm worshiping Christ in his incarnate form? Because he was incarnate into human flesh, something that isn't spirit? It almost comes off kind of Gnostic, to be like, oh, if it's matter, I'm not going to worship dirt. The whole point is that it's his body, blood, soul, and divinity. It's not just his soul and divinity. That borders on Gnosticism. And Ruslan, you left out this part where George very directly says that we are worshiping dirt when we are worshiping the Eucharist. But that is literally Christ that we are worshiping. We don't want him to be trampled on the ground by our feet when the bread and the wine has been consecrated. So for him to call it dirt is insulting the Eucharist and the real presence. And I don't like that on your video you seem to have left that part completely out, but yet there it is.
We're just taking dirt and worshiping it as if it's our presence of God. And I can't wrap my head around that.
Again, I know that George Janko isn't a Gnostic. I am not saying that, but it sounds Gnostic because he is calling the Eucharist dirt. You've seen it in the clip. I don't know why Ruslan never shared this part of the podcast, but it was very selective with the clips from what I could tell and what he used. Whether he did that intentionally or not, I don't know. I don't know if Ruslan will even see this, but you know, I'm a fan of his. I watch his YouTube channel all the time, so I'm not at all putting Ruslan down. But let's be intellectually honest here that the clip is right there, and George did refer to the Eucharist as dirt. And when you really believe in the real presence, you cannot believe that the Eucharist is dirt. Because otherwise, he could say the same thing about Christ when he was alive on earth in an earthly body. Matter is not evil. That's the reason why it sounds kind of Gnostic to me. But again, I don't believe that George Janko is Gnostic. But yeah, this explanation of what he had to say doesn't fly for me because it's right there. I'm sorry, it's right there. And I hope that there's an apology that comes out, but I'm kind of doubting it. But peace to you all anyway.